This is episode 30 with Dave Chesson.
Hey, this is John Lee Dumas of EO Fire, and you're listening to Men of Abundance with Wally Carmichael. You must be prepared to ignite.
Welcome to Men of Abundance, the podcast for those looking to level up their lives by hanging out with some of the greatest leaders and established professionals in our community, living a life of integrity, honor, and the abundance mentality. Prepare to pay it forward with your host, former Army medic turned lifestyle entrepreneur, Wally Carmichael.
Aloha, Men of Abundance. Today's guest is a nuclear engineer, a submariner, and a KindlePreneur. During this interview, Dave explains what a KindlePreneur is and how and why he has decided to transition from being a naval officer to a KindlePreneur. But of course, before I introduce Dave, I want to give you the opportunity to be abundant in your life today by subscribing to Men of Abundance on either iTunes or Stitcher. And what would be really cool and greatly appreciated is if you leave a review about your experience with Men of Abundance on iTunes or Stitcher. The reason why this is so important to us and the reason why I bring this up so often is because the more subscribers and the more rates and reviews that we get on iTunes and Stitcher equals much better search results for the conversations that we're having with all of these amazing, abundant leaders. And that simply means more men will be able to find this amazing information that they're looking for. In addition to that, more subscribers equals more downloads. More downloads means I will start attracting sponsors that can start paying for this show. You see, you're consuming this amazing content completely free, absolutely no charge. However, putting all of this together for you with all the software and everything else involved in podcasting, it's not free. It is costing me money. And I'm doing it because I absolutely love sharing this information with you. But at some point, I do need to start attracting sponsors so that I can at least pay for operating costs. So I would greatly appreciate you helping me keep the mic on by simply sharing this podcast with as many people as you can. Subscribe and leave a rating and review on iTunes or Stitcher. All right, let's get Dave on the line. As I already mentioned at the time of this conversation, Dave is a commissioned officer in the U.S. Navy. He's a nuclear engineer, a submariner, and a KindlePreneur. Dave explains what that is in just a minute. Dave, welcome to the show.
Hey, it's great to be here. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I appreciate you jumping on so quick, man. I mean, I just got in contact with you, saw what you were doing. Absolutely love what you're doing, and you're active duty Navy, is that right?
That's correct. Well, for the next couple of days, and then after that, I'll be transitioning to full online entrepreneur.
How awesome is that?
Amen to that.
That's freaking cool, man. Yeah, I retired a year and a half ago, and I remember that day, man. It was just an amazing feeling. So, where are you at in the world?
I'm currently in Sri Lanka. My current posting is with the U.S. Embassy in Colombo.
That is one place I have not been yet. How do you like it out there?
I love it. Well, actually, a lot of people have seen it. It was where they filmed Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom. Mm-hmm. So it wasn't in India. It was, I guess back then they had some kind of issues, and Sri Lanka was like, hey guys, any filming, you need to do in India. Guess what? You get to skip the red tape. Come on down to Sri Lanka. So, there's the Temple of Doom. And then on top of that, we were whitewater rafting. And the guy who was steering the raft goes, look, there's this giant rubble in the water. And he goes, famous bridge. That is called Kwai. And I'm like, you mean bridge over River Kwai? And he goes, yep, they blew it up for the movie. I was like, that's awesome.
Goodness. No kidding.
So sure enough, I steered I said, get over there. I need to get a picture of this. And sure enough, got out and sent it to my dad. And so, yeah, so we've actually seen Sri Lanka a lot. It's just you don't know it.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I did know some of that, but because I'm a big Indiana Jones fan, my wife and I both are, and we certainly would have had to go take that photo op without a doubt.
Oh, absolutely. And it's funny is that my favorite scene is real life for me now, because we'll be walking and all of a sudden, somebody who's visiting will be like, oh, those are really big birds. And I'm like, those ain't birds, sweetheart. They're giant fruit bats in the air.
Yeah. I was in Israel in a little town right across the border from Egypt into Israel. And right across the water was Jordan, where they filmed one of the Indiana Jones movies where they're going into the I think, what was that? Where they had the I think it was the Fountain of Youth, where they had the big. Now I can't remember the darn name of it. But anyway, I wanted to go over there, but we couldn't get enough guys for the tour to get over there. So anyhow, that's as close as I got. Anyway, Dave, I like to start the show the same way I start every morning, which is with an attitude of gratitude. What do you have to be grateful for today?
I'm just grateful for the opportunity to, have these experiences. I mean, the military sent me all over the world. Before this, I was in South Korea. Now I'm in Sri Lanka. And although my military career is ending, I'm just thankful for the opportunities that I've gotten all the way through, from the education that they gave me to having the time to be able to do a side business that's turned into my full business.
Yeah, I'm a real big proponent of traveling and experiencing unusual experiences that most people don't get a chance to. I believe it's made me a better person all around from every day that I've been able to travel, and I'm sure it has you as well.
Absolutely, and just kind of something I want to add to that, because I know, it'll be a focus later on in our conversation, but, when being a part of the military was great, and it's not like I resented the job that they gave me, but, sometimes as an entrepreneur, sometimes as a father, as a husband, we need to define what our definition of success is. And for me, it wasn't exactly a career in the military. But that doesn't mean that I look back at it with negativity or that I feel as though it was a waste of time. Although I have split away from it to create a new life, a new career, and I created this exit strategy that I followed through on. It just comes down to being thankful for, what I've gained from it, but it's just not the future for me.
I definitely respect that. A lot of the guys that I served with, and even myself, I was ready to get out at one point. Things just changed in my life, but it's just not for everybody. It really is not. But there's still a lot. Everybody I've talked to, is still a lot to gain from the experience, without a doubt.
Absolutely. There's a lot of have you ever heard of Gary Vaynerchuk?
Oh, absolutely.
I love that guy. I do. And he's got some great motivational parts to it. But a lot of times his focus is on hey, if you don't like your 9 to 5, if you hate Mondays and you yearn for Fridays, then you need to get out of it. I'm just saying you don't need that quality of disdain for your job, to want to try to find an exit. You just need to understand that, hey, this is my definition of success, and I'm not on that path. And so that's kind of what I just wanted to highlight.
No, I absolutely agree. And here's another clue. If you're sitting at work looking at the clock, chances are you're not digging what you're doing. So,
right.
Find a side hustle, experience other things, and you'll figure out what you truly love doing. And the way you love what you're doing is when you look at the clock and you realize it's been 2 hours and you didn't even realize it. That's when you know you love what you're doing. All right. So, and that could be any number of things. So before we started the show, I talked a little bit about you. I gave a little bit of your bio, but not a whole lot, because I want you to tell us who you are, where you come from. We know a little bit we've talked about already, but let's get a little bit more personal.
Yeah, well, being a military brat had me all over the place. It's been a great experience. My father, grandfather, great-grandfather, all of them on both sides of the family, they're all Navy and military. So, I was raised in that kind of legacy aspect of it. But, I started my career as a submariner, and I found out that while I had chosen a path, I felt like I had to cram my square block through a round hole. You know how they always say that, try to fit a square block through a round hole. Well, I cut my corners off just to get through that hole. And I learned that, there are certain things that I enjoy doing. There's certain skills that I have. And I had forced myself in a path that just didn't let me do that. And having this exit strategy allowed me to kind of step back and look at my life and look at the things that I'm good at and enjoyed. And, that was a big motivating factor for me. So I would say to people out there, if you feel as though either you're not utilizing the skills that you have, or you feel like you're trying to shove your square through that round hole, that should be a really good sign too, that maybe you need to look for an exit strategy.
What do you suggest for people to try to find out what their fit is?
Well, the first thing I'd say is definitely, if you got a spouse, talk to them first.
They'll definitely tell you who you are.
That's right. Whether you agree or not, it doesn't matter. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, so I couldn't have done any of this without talking to my wife and making sure that she was not only on board, but that she understood what I was trying to do. Doing a side hustle, trying to learn skill, grow in a new area requires, discipline. It requires, a change in lifestyle. And if he or she is not on board with that, then you're basically on a path for failure, failure in something. So, for us, we immediately talked about it. We looked at, okay, this sounds like a good idea, but you need to define what success is. You need to say, okay, well, is success to be rich? Is success to be home with your family? Is success, these things are very important because once you've defined success, you can define the scope of work, okay? This allowed me to have a go, no go criteria. I remember I was in South Korea, Busan at the time when we were having this conversation. And I was like, well, great. So what kind of side income can I create in South Korea? I mean, I can't go back to the United States. I don't speak Korean. I'm actually fluent in Chinese, but somehow the military sent me to Korea.
Imagine that.
And yeah, exactly. And I was in a Korean base, no less, too. So I wasn't even with a U.S. detachment. And that was always fun. But I mean, seriously, like, what could I do? I tried to look at being like one of these international shippers or consultants, where I could, help companies that order something from South Korea or China, help it get over there. But then I realized, well, no, that's a bad idea because my definition of success was to be home with my family. If I'm an international shipper, I'll never be able to accomplish that. So just by knowing what success was, it helped me to realize yeah, this is a good idea. No, that's a terrible idea. It's just another job, And so just to recap that, definitely have your partner on board with you, define your success, and use that to define the scope so that you can make the right choice moving forward.
Very good points, and I absolutely love that you say to define your success first. One of the things I try to teach my boys, try to get them to understand, is to decide the lifestyle that you ultimately want to be living, and then find a vocation that will fit that lifestyle. Most people do it the other way around. They just find whatever vocation that they can kind of fall into or kind of get forced into, either rather by their own beliefs or somebody else's beliefs, usually parents, kind of like what you did, and then find out this isn't really what I want to do, not because I don't like what I'm doing, but because I don't like the lifestyle that it's giving me. Does that make sense?
Exactly. As a matter of fact, to take that further, when people choose their vocation, they try to then change their lifestyle to fit that vocation. Mm-hmm. I mean, we start making sacrifices on the things that we do or don't want to do. And when you do that, that's when you start to feel these little holes inside that are saying, hey, like I used to do this. I used to be this person and I'm not anymore. And that's when people really start to kind of internally suffer. And a lot of people won't ever make that connection. They just know that they're not happy with their life. It's a terrible example, but I look back at before the military, I loved to golf. I did a lot of golfing, and after joining the military, it's gone. I haven't been stationed at any place that has a golf course, and so that's one of those loves of mine that's just kind of died off. And I'm sure there are lots of little things that have happened, but just to know that you've made sacrifices, you made changes in your life, in the lifestyle that you love, should be an eye-opener.
Absolutely. So we're going to get into all the amazing things that you're doing at this point, and you are doing some amazing things. I've looked into quite a bit of what you're doing, and I'm interested in what you're doing myself. We'll talk about that in just a minute. But before we do, I really want to get into that kick in the gut moment, either on a personal or on an entrepreneurial level, as you were building your side hustle and your side business while you're active duty military. I'd love to hear that story.
Yeah, my kick in the gut moment was when Google banned me from using their AdSense. Oh. When I first started, I was building these niche websites. I became a very big SEOer. To this day, I love search engine optimization because you work hard, you get your site ranking number 1 for great terms, and then you get continuous traffic. It was very passive and great. However, though, I was making money, and my sole source of money was coming from Google Ads. So that's where Google will put the ads on your website, and if people click it, you get paid. So it was a nice 1-2 punch to be able to rank first and get the clicks. And then all of a sudden, all the money just went away. it was gone. I was not making any more money, and I was scratching my head. And I contact Google, and of course Google sends me this robotic response of, you have illegal code on your website, and therefore we've canceled your account. I was like, what? And so I went to the drawing boards and I looked, and I found out that I had actually messed up in putting the code in. And so what was happening is if somebody hovered over it, it was telling Google it was a click. And I was like, this just sounds terrible. But I was like, oh my goodness. So I changed it, and I sent them a response, and they fixed everything, and I got my account back. But here's the thing. Here's the lesson of this. I was riding high. I was enjoying, that I'd set something up. I was getting this passive continuous income, nice side income, and it went away. It was gone because I had put all my eggs in one basket. I was dependent on one company, one platform to give me my income. And I realized on that day that, as entrepreneurs, you really shouldn't depend on somebody else solely for your income, because one day it can change. But number two is that, and when that change does come, and it will, be prepared, understand that it's not the end of the world, and, move forward and adapt.
Yeah, there's a lot of lessons there, and quite a few. You summed them all up perfectly. I mean, that is a kick in the gut. I could feel that one.
Yeah, I wallowed in pain. I'm not gonna lie. I was like a little girl with a skin knee when it happened, and I just sat there just staring, and I don't know why it affected me so much. I guess it scared me. It felt terrible to see that happen. All my work potentially was gone. All these months of putting in this effort, everything down the drain. And it took me a while to recover, and to this day I still don't understand why. I mean, being in the military, what it's like to get yelled at and screamed at, or to get, well, heck, I got disqualified once and requalified back, but I mean, that hurt. But this for some reason just hurt more.
Well, yeah, there was a lot of money. There was income involved, and plus your baby, everything. See, Men of Abundance, the thing that some of you may not understand, because not everybody here is an entrepreneur or even aspires to be an entrepreneur, but when you build something like this and you just put so much time and effort into it, and you nurture it, and you get it almost to where you want it to be, and then all of a sudden it's literally kidnapped from you. It's just gone, and it literally feels like that. It's like a death almost. And it's gut-wrenching. I can just feel it. I know.
Yeah, and another aspect of that too is that even during the day job or so, even if I disappointed a boss or I got a really bad fit rep or something like that, that didn't affect my pay.
Exactly.
And I've never been used to something just all of a sudden changing the pay that I get. It's a variable that I never thought about or experienced, and this was one of those that it's like, hey, somebody just turned the switch, and next thing you know, it was gone.
Yeah,
so.
Absolutely. So obviously you're at a pivot point right now, because in a couple days you're a civilian again, and that's a major pivot point. Now, remember that day that I picked up my DD-214, which basically says you're no longer on active duty service and you can go home now, type of thing. And but you have other pivot points that's taking you into what you're getting ready to do. Can you share that pivot point with us?
Yeah, well, so first off, I had started by creating all these niche websites, so that's a nice side income. I get paid from Google for AdSense as well as Amazon Associate, which is their affiliate program. And then after a while of building these out, I started writing books to actually promote on my websites. And so I was using Amazon's KDP, Kindle Direct Publishing. And what's great about that is combining my skill set with organic traffic on Google to the books, it created a really nice passive income. So over the past 3.5 years, I've really built out that arsenal of assets. I like to call them assets because they pay me every month. So, they're valuable assets to me. But I got to a point where I was like, okay, well, I've been writing under a pen name. I've really been putting out all this information, but nobody knows who I am. I think it's time for me to grow as an entrepreneur and to create something, that I'm really attached to, that has me inside of it, has my nerdiness and dorkiness all over it. And that's when I created KindlePreneur.com, which is Kindle Entrepreneur, KindlePreneur. Mm-hmm. It's a website that's devoted to teaching self-publishers how to market their book using online tactics. And it's it's been wonderful. It's been a great experience for me, a learning experience. We went from, a year ago it started, and went from 0 to 100,000 readers per month in just that time. We've created a lot of free tools, and so it's really become like kind of a hub and center for people who are like, hey, I've written a book, but I'm not selling as much as I was hoping. And for me, that's, it's been a great learning experience. It brought in more income, and when you combine all those things together, that has allowed me to step away from the Navy, go home, be with my kids, be with my wife, stay there, work from home, and live pretty much comfortable. So exit strategy completed.
Awesome. And obviously that's your why, is to get home. Is that correct?
100%. Yes. I spent the past 3 out of 4 years deployed without my family. That's too much. I've got a daughter who's 4 years old, and she's only had me in her life for 1 year. So I'm ready to go back and make up that time.
Yeah, absolutely. Good for you, man. I'm excited for you. That's a really good place to be able to have that exit strategy. So many guys get out, so many men and women exit military service just because they're not digging what they're doing anymore, but they have no plan whatsoever. And that's part of my mission, is to make sure these folks and others have a plan before they make that exit.
Yeah, and sometimes, one of the shock values for me was that I was submarines, and so I was a nuclear engineer.
And I respect that, by the way. Submariners have big respect for me. It's not something I could do.
Yeah, me neither. Like I said, square peg through a round hole. Mm-hmm. But, I was like, oh, well, I could always just get out and go work for a reactor plant, and that'll be great. But the thing I was realizing, though, is that wasn't something I would just be trading one job for another. And that wouldn't make me happy. And if I were to try to do something new, something exciting, I'd have to start from square one. I would have zero experience. I'd have zero, real background. And so if I had decided, say I wanted to go work for GE, oil or exploration, which was something I was kind of thinking about, I would need to start preparing now. I couldn't just step out of the Navy and then say, hey, GE, I want to work for you on this thing that I have no experience on, no, academic background on. Just hire me because I'm a military guy. And a lot of people do that. But I think the best thing is that when you do decide what that job, whether it's entrepreneur or not, whatever it is you think will make you happy and successful in life, you should start thinking about the things you can do now to prepare for that, to make it a better, more realistic path to go on. And you have time. I would say to everyone out there, your life may be filled with lots of stuff, but there's so much you can do. For me, I cut out watching a movie and TV shows. That freed up about 2 to 3 hours a day, every day, just from that one tiny sacrifice. So find out what that is, rearrange your life so you can accomplish it, and then move towards the goal.
So you're not only writing Kindle books, you're now also showing other people how to write Kindle books and get them published and monetize them or everything else. Is that correct?
Well, actually, not so much the how to write them or publish them. So my step is that, hey, if you've written a book, but you want to sell more of your book, then KindlePreneur is the place. I love with the marketing aspect of it. And I feel as though that's the one thing most writers struggle with. There are a lot of amazing writers out there, and there are a lot of poor writers out there. The difference between them is is whether or not you know how to sell it. I tell people all the time, I'm not a best author, but I am a best-selling author. And some of these authors who are really into their art struggle with the part of getting their book out there, getting it in front of the right people, so that people can enjoy what they did. And that's where KindlePreneur comes in.
No, that's a very good point in what you just said about you're not a best author, but a best-selling author. And quite frankly, there are some very, very good books that are written out there, but they're sitting on a shelf somewhere and not getting purchased, because that's a whole different art form, is getting it out to the people that want the book. And that's where you come in.
A great example is J.K. Rowling, who wrote, the Harry Potter series, right? She wrote what most people consider is the most profitable book in our time. Here it is, a $1 billion idea. When you add all the things that have come from Harry Potter, from the movie deals to the theme park that's being created to everything, a $1 billion book sitting there. And there were 26 different editors that rejected her. She got it out to these publishing companies. They all rejected her. The only guy who finally accepted it was because her agent the dude owed her agent a favor, and so he said, fine, I'll go through the book. And instead of reading the book, he threw it to his daughter and said, here, you read it. You tell me if it's good. She came back 24 hours, and she's like, is there a second one? And when is it coming out? And that's when he was like, oh. I mean, so here she had the best book, the biggest money-making thing ever, and she couldn't even get it out. She had to keep with it, beating the drum, pushing it in front of people, hoping that somebody would grab it and take it. And I say to any author out there, you could write the greatest money-making book ever, and you may fail. It may never be read. And that's where, you need to understand either how to market yourself or how to get somebody who really knows how to do it and does it for you.
Absolutely. And I've heard this multiple times from many people who have written books. And I know many top-selling books, or top-selling authors, I should say. So what are some good news stories other than your own books? Because I know you've got quite a few books out there, and you're helping other people get their book to market and get it onto Kindle. What are some good news stories about that?
Well, one thing is that we actually just launched software. That's a new one for me, called KDP Rocket. And basically, it is a program that goes through and pulls data from Amazon to help authors figure out if their book is going to succeed in Amazon. So the idea is that you go into the software, you type in your idea, and it will go through all of the pre-existing books that rank for those terms, finds other terms for you, and basically tells you how much money those books are making and whether or not you kind of have a chance to make some of that money as well. So it's really a book marketing research program, and it's kind of a first of its kind, especially with all the data we present. Because, hey, I'm a nuke. I'm a big data guy. I love to see the numbers before I make a decision on investing all that time, energy, and money into writing a book. And we've got a lot of amazing feedback from authors who are like, whoa, this totally stopped me from going into a dead end where nobody was looking for it. And at the same time, it's really helped people to get their book discovered. So that means a lot to me, not because of the income stream that comes from it, but, I tell people all the time that the two things that I fear most in the world, is I fear only God and dishonor. And when you put a product out there, man, I was doing everything in my power to make sure that there was no dishonor that came from a product. So it's just been wonderful personally to have experienced and created that, and to be able to stand by it and know that people are enjoying it.
Yeah, that's really cool. I did see that on your site, but I didn't really look into it. That's absolutely something that I will be using in the near future as I finish up my book. In fact, I'll be using that before I finish up my book so that I can make adjustments if need be, because I do want proof of concept. And that's what that is, Men of Abundance, in the entrepreneur world. You want proof of concept before you put your product, service, or even your book out to market. Before you even produce it and spend all the time, money, and energy to do that, you want proof of concept. So that is a very, very valuable tool to have.
Yeah, even like fast food chains do this. It's funny because authors have never really approached writing books in that way. But I mean, In-N-Out, the greatest burger joint, fast food restaurant in the United States. It's a fact, not even a. But anyways, when they decide that, hey, we want to start a new In-N-Out restaurant in, say, San Francisco, they don't just choose a street and put it there, right? They don't say, okay, well, San Francisco, we'll put one here and one there. They go through and they do research. They find out, what streets get the most traffic, how much competition is there, whether or not the competition is making money, opportunities that exist, and they'll compile all this data and they'll use operational research to say, well, this one spot here with all of its pros and cons seems to be the most optimal choice for us to set up a new restaurant there. And then they make the decision, they move. Now, does it mean that they're going to succeed? Does it mean that they will make all the money that they projected? No, but they have a way better idea about, whether or not they're going to succeed there, how much they can expect, and they already know what challenges they're going to face before they even sign a contract and move forward on it. I say any business out there should have something like that. And in my sector, as authors and self-publishers, nobody had created it. And that's why we jumped on it. We created the software to do exactly that.
I've never heard of anything like that. I've heard of the, kind of the proof of concept, but never a software or anything that had that much data attached to it. And that's very awesome to have. And I'm definitely going to get my hands on that. So, Dave, we're at the point where we're going to pay it forward. You ready for that?
Absolutely.
Awesome. So give Men of Abundance 1 to 3 actionable steps that they can take today.
Well, I want to go back to what we talked about and say step number 1, talk to your spouse. Step number 2, define what success is for you both. And step number 3 is using that definition of success, scope out what life should look like to be able to accomplish it, and then to take action. Take action now.
Take action, definitely. What daily steps make the biggest impact in your life?
I'd say creating a schedule, maintaining discipline. Now, I know that sounds like the most military response ever, but when we talked about that, how do you accomplish these things that we just listed? And the way you do that is you need to understand you're going to have to make slight sacrifices in your life, but stick to it, stick to the plan. I cut out movies, as well as I get up at 4:30 every morning. I have a nice coffee, and I go into my routine, and I get stuff done before I go into work. And that's allowed me over the past 3.5 years to get to my exit strategy and my success. So I would suggest the same.
Excellent. What book would you recommend to Men of Abundance, and why?
That's a really good question. My favorite one is The One Thing by Gary Keller. It's, as an entrepreneur, as a father, husband, Navy guy, all these roles that we, the Men of Abundance, play is, there's just so much. There's so much input. And with that book, it will help you to make sure you prioritize, you choose the one thing at a time, and you accomplish that. And when you do that, you'll get much better results than trying to do everything at the same time.
That is an excellent book, and it's co-authored by Jay Papasan. Absolutely love that book. And I will have that book and any of the books that you have as well, Dave, listed in the show notes at menofabundance.com. Just search Dave in the search bar, because I think this will be episode either 30 or 31. So I have one last question for you, and to me this is one of the most important questions for Men of Abundance, and that is, what does living a life of abundance mean to you?
Life of abundance is where you have your definition of success and you've reached it, and that allows you to live your life to the fullest. Like we said, your lifestyle, the lifestyle that you love, that you've reached that, and that allows you to expand and enjoy.
So we're going to close this up, and before we do, you've already left us with quite a bit of great information, but I'd like you to leave us with a parting piece of guidance and any way that we can get a hold of you and hold of any of your books and anything else that you have coming up.
I think that the number one reason why people fail is because, fail to reach that point in life is because, they create a plan and they just don't stick to it. It requires a lot of discipline and determination, but more importantly, you need to know what you're striving for. And if you put that carrot at the end of the stick, you can get there. For me, if you guys out there have any questions, especially if you are writing a book or whatever, if you go to KindlePreneur.com/contact me, or you just find my contact page, send me a message there. To this day, I respond to every one of them personally. I don't have virtual assistants doing it for me, and be more than happy to help out anybody out there.
And again, Men of Abundance, we will have that listed, all the links and websites and books and everything we already mentioned, because I know some of you are driving and doing other things, working out at the gym or whatever you do during the podcast. I'll have all of that in the show notes for you, so you can just go directly to menofabundance.com, put Dave in the search bar, and you can click on any of the links and get access right there. So Dave, I truly appreciate your time, man. Be safe on your move. I know how those moves go. They're kind of stressful sometimes, but this one's all new to you, man.
Yes, sir, indeed.
Awesome. So have a great day.
Thank you. You too.
All right, take care. All right, Abundant Leaders, thanks for sticking around to the end. I think that was a great conversation with Dave, and it further validates the entire idea of having a side hustle, regardless of how comfortable you are in your job today. Once again, there are so many things out there that you can do. Who would have thought that you could make a career out of helping people get their books ranked on Kindle like Dave is doing? Simply another amazing vocation that is going to free him and allow him to spend more time with his family and doing the things that he would much rather be doing. What would you rather be doing? What would you rather be doing 8 hours a day than what you're doing right now? I know some of you love your job, and that's great, and I commend you for it. But my question to you is, are you living the abundant lifestyle that you dream of? You really can have it. It's not that difficult. It does take work and it takes time, but you just have to learn some new skills and apply those skills and take action. I want you living your life of abundance. I want you living the lifestyle that you want to live. You deserve that. It's a very short life. So wouldn't you rather spend it doing the things that you truly enjoy doing? All right, I've preached enough. Go out and live your life of abundance and make sure to pay it forward.
That's all for today, Abundance Leaders. For more about our guests and the powerful information we shared with you today, be sure to sign up for our mailing list at menofabundance.com. We appreciate your time and look forward to hanging out with you on our next episode. So until then, be sure to pay it forward and live your life of abundance.